to give the contributions that they have over the years. As we ask for contributions in our groups, that's one way, but it's really been the community who has been willing to come forth and allow us to continue.
And it's tax deductible?
Tax deductible. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and so we welcome those.
That's
very
good.
much
No,
so.
I would encourage people to do this. This is really a wonderful program for the community, and some of you have gone through divorces, I think, and appreciate how difficult it is and have gone through the program. So it's just this one thing I would like to see, hopefully people would support. I think it's probably obvious why the answer to this question, but why would people use divorce recovery?
Well, when people are going through the transition of a divorce, what we have found with that is that people do need support. That if they have support, they're more effective in getting through the
Family, you
experience.
think, is insufficient, or sometimes how does that play between the support
Well,
from
I think
family and
sometimes
support from divorce recovery?
I think families help, and I think that they can provide assistance a lot of the time. Many times, though, families are pretty critical of people going through divorce, and people find that they are out on their own and that they don't have any real support. So this provides them with a way by which they can get that kind of support. I think the second thing is that they also then get education. They get the information that might help them get through the process, the emotional process, especially of a divorce.
How do you think that, it just occurred to me, and, you know, that we were talking about this, is how does this affect people's remarriage? In terms of, have you found anything, information, having gone through divorce recovery, do they make a smarter decision when they marry a second time, or how does it affect that?
I think they do, especially because they recognize where they've been, what some of the problems were in their marriage, what happened, and it does open the door for the possibility of making better choices the next time around.
Have you had people who've gone through the program
oh yeah,
second time
we
around?
have many of them. And many times people don't come the first time after a divorce. Sometimes it's after a second divorce. We talk a lot about the fact that people jump in, especially if their self-esteem has been beaten up pretty hard and they are not quite sure what they can do. They will jump into a relationship, we call them bridge relationships, and that in those bridge relationships oftentimes, especially if they get married again, they don't work, and it's then when they come to divorce recovery.
Actually, I used to have, we had Christmas parties at my office years ago, and we would have divorce clients come and they would meet other clients that were getting divorced, and actually one of them, I think, got together. Have you had that situation where people have actually met?
Oh, sure, within divorce recovery, and we've had people who have connected. We encourage people who are in our divorce recovery groups not to date, though. Some do anyway, but we encourage them not to. We encourage them to really work on their own issues, their own emotional needs at that time, so that they then can find themselves before they enter into a new relationship. I think many times people jump into relationships too soon. I think it takes a good year, we sometimes say, and I do in the transition out of a marriage, through the endings, through the time in between that we talk about to new beginnings, that it takes 18 months to 4 years to get through transition.
You know, it also occurred to me is that having the children having gone through this program, how do you think that affects their view of marriage and their view of divorce? Right? You had people actually gone through, I mean, the program is old enough now where they could have gone through as children and then go through as adults.
And we have. We've had some who have been children in the divorce recovery program and then who have come back and brought their own kids in their own divorce. What we know, of course, with children is that the likelihood of them getting a divorce is greater as a result of having experienced that as a child. I think that by having the ability to talk with their parents, to have other support, to know that there is help for them, that it becomes easier, if not more effective, for them to get through it. Doesn't mean that it's going to solve all their problems, for sure.
Once again, I'd like to get to do this. Let's put it on the screen again so you know where to make a contribution, where to get help. It's divorce recovery. It's www.divorcerecovery.net, 520-495-0704.
Thank you. That's great.
How does divorce recovery, Frank, really differ from other types of programs?
Well, we're the only program of its kind, really, in the United States that is all volunteer run, all volunteer led, except for several religious programs. We're secular in that a lot of people go through it that have had an experience within their churches, and that's fine, and there's nothing that we don't discourage people like that at all. But it's not a religious focused program, and there are some of those that are both in this community, and we highly recommend them, as well as across the country.
How would you compare the Catholic Church does, I think, an interesting program prior to marriage? How does your program, would you think, compare in terms of?
Well, the more help that we can get people before they get married, the better off they will be, and I highly encourage anyone who is getting married to go through some kind of a premarital program, and that would help a lot.
Although I've sort of joked about this, but I'm sort of thought about it, whether we should have marriages of limited duration with an option to renew. I mean, sometimes the person you marry is not the person you divorce.
Oh, I think that's very true. And I remember Margaret Mead, who was a psychologist at one point, who really talked to, and an anthropologist who really talked about having the kind of marriage in which if you do not have children that you could easily get out of, you could easily end it. Once you had children, that would become much more difficult. And there is some value to that.
You mentioned, I think earlier on, and I think you have a term for it, and I can't remember, never married population, I think is the way you were phrasing it. I've never heard that term used before, but I think it's a good description of that. And if you start looking at the statistics, the divorce statistics, even though the divorce rate is going down, I think it may be of influence also by the fact that we have fewer people getting married in some ways.
That's right.
And so,
that's right. Well, what we're seeing, of course, is the greater number of people who are cohabiting, who are living together before they get married, and then oftentimes having children. We found in the state of Arizona that about 40% of the population of new births are to never married parents.
40%?
40%, maybe higher than that in Arizona. Across the country, it's over a third, almost 40%. I think that people have come to an opinion in which marriage is less important. I think it's too bad that they look at that way, but and they end up saying, well, I want to live with somebody, I want to be with somebody. We don't need the legal bonds of marriage, which I think in many ways is too bad. And then they end up having a child. Children always put a kind of pressures upon a marriage, and they do upon any kind of a relationship. And if they end that, then that's the end of the marriage.
This may be a tough question, and we only have about another minute left, so I'm not sure we can go there, but it's with all that's been going on in California and the same-sex marriages and things like that, are you seeing the same thing in divorce recovery where you're getting essentially gay couples or that the program doesn't deal with that?
No, we do. And we have seen some gay couples. I think it's difficult at times for gay couples to, when they break, to come to a program in which, by and large, most of those people who they will have in the group have been from heterosexual marriages. But we accept them, and it's open to
Frank, I really want to thank you for coming. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you.
We are running out of time. I want to thank you for being a guest. I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else has learned a lot about divorce recovery. It's just a wonderful program for those of you in the Tucson area, and as you said, it's unique. There are a lot of services, including Access Tucson, which we have in Tucson, and people don't appreciate that we can do these things. So I want to thank you all for watching Divorce TV. And you can get more information, as you saw at the bottom of your screen, with our website. And we welcome your emails and your questions about our programs, future programs. And once again, thank you very much for watching Divorce Television.